we need to talk about Syria because there is a huge story happening in Syria that involves the United States and Turkey that you are not hearing about in the media because they want to keep it under wraps. Okay, and this is the biggest amount of fighting that we've seen in Syria in many years since 2019. Right, it's really gotten out of hand. Because since 2019, the lines have stayed relatively stable, right? Everyone has stayed in their corner, so to speak. The Turks have Idlib, they've carved out a section of Idlib. The United States is stealing oil with the help of the Kurdish-led SDF over in Deir ez-Zor and Hasakeh, which are in the northeast and east of Syria. And then Israel is occupying the Golan Heights since '67. And ISIS is hiding in the desert near Palmyra and so on. Everything the Americans have built is at risk of falling apart. So let me explain this, okay? Just look at the map. This is what I was describing here. You see the stuff in yellow, okay? Now this map is from Al Jazeera from 2020, but it's relatively the same. The lines haven't changed substantially, okay? You see everything in yellow. This is SDF. So SDF stands for Syrian Democratic Forces. Another CIA acronym. It's basically an umbrella organization of all these militias that are mostly, Kurdish, and then also you have allies that work with them that are Arab tribes. And the United States is the main backer of the SDF. They're not just backing them; they're literally on the ground with them stealing oil. What happened is that the SDF, okay, the Kurdish faction. They screwed up. What they did is they summoned the head of the military council, okay, of the Arab tribes. So his name is Ahmad Abu Khawla, and they arrested him. It was a trap. They arrested him, and then people just lost it. All the Arab tribes that have been so, up until this point, tolerating being ruled by the SDF and the Americans. They just had enough. This is really the straw that broke the camel's back. They are now fighting against the SDF. There's been a split. And you need to understand that this is very bad for the United States. The United States is not doing anything. Because if they lean, if they put their thumb too much on the scale for one side, for the Kurds, they're going to make the Arab tribes even more angry. And if they, put their thumb on the scale in favor of the Arab tribes, they will make the Kurds angry. So now the United States have basically smuggled, some spooks from the State Department who illegally entered Syria to talk with both sides to try and calm things. This is from the United States Embassy in Syria, which is a non-existent entity. There is no U.S. Embassy in Syria. I mean, there used to be one, but it's currently unoccupied. And they are proudly saying that Deputy Assistant Secretary Goldrich, Jesus with these goddamn acronyms, basically, he's the head of Near East Affairs. The United States, because they're running an empire, they assign, random people to who are responsible for areas of the world that are not part of the United States. Like typical colonial stuff. So Mr. Goldrich, right, and Commander Major General Vowell met in northeast Syria with the SDF, the SDC, and tribal leaders from Deir ez-Zor. Now, hold on a second. When you say met in northeast Syria, how the hell did they get into northeast Syria? They entered illegally, which is against the law. Just think of how arrogant these people are. They not only commit the crime, they go and post about it on Twitter. The United States, it does not have the right to just walk into any country that it feels like violating. Just imagine if a Syrian, any Syrian, entered the United States illegally. Any person, really. It's not necessarily Syrian, but just imagine, like, if this was, the other way around. That a Syrian official, a Syrian government official, and a Syrian general, they enter through Mexico into the United States illegally to meet with some people that they're giving weapons to fight the government of Washington. I mean, they would hit the roof. If you enter the United States illegally, you would be put in a cage and deported. You would be treated like, the lowest scum on earth, because you're violating the United States laws and its borders, which are sacrosanct. What about Syria's borders? Who gives these people the right? What gives these people the right to just walk in? to meet with whoever the hell. I mean, this is ridiculous. It's like John McCain. You remember John McCain? He just walked into Syria illegally, of course, through Turkey to meet with a bunch of, terrorists who are Al-Qaeda. And he posts a picture, it's like, it's shameless, absolutely shameless. So in any case, the United States, they're really, really trying to fix the situation. And I need you to understand, since 2014, 2015, the United States have been trying to set up a tribal force, as I call it. Basically, they wanted to get all the Arab tribes in Deir ez-Zor together and make out of them one force that they can control. Because the United States need to control the Arab tribes and the Kurds so they can control the region. Now, the Kurds cooperate because they want their own country, right? So, I feel bad for them, honestly, because they always get stabbed in the back by the Americans. You remember 2019 with Trump, he just like pulled out and left them, to Turkey to butcher. They always get stabbed in the back by the Americans, and then they still go back and work with the Americans every single time. It's unbelievable. Like I said, the Kurds cooperate because, there's something in it for them. The United States favor the Kurds. This is not Kurdish. I know Vice News and all these, and Vox and all these media outlets want you to think that Kurdistan is a real country. It's not. Syria is not yours to just chop up and divide the way you feel like doing. We've already been through this. Syria has already been chopped up quite a few times. Lebanon, Israel, Jordan. This was all Syria. So it's not enough that they carved it up, Sykes and Picot, these British and French, I'm trying not to swear, diplomats. No, now they want to take another chunk. I want you to understand something. Christians, for example, now we're talking about a religious group, not an ethnic group, but nevertheless, it's just an analogy. Christians are also a minority in Syria. Yes? About 10% of the population Christian, like myself. Okay, so my father's side British, mother's side Syrian Christian. Why don't I also just go and demand a country? I'm going to go and carve out a piece of Syria to my liking, and then treat everybody who's Kurdish like crap. What do you think? How do you think they would like that? That would be wrong. That would be immoral. That would be gross and disgusting. So how come Deir ez-Zor is majority Arab? 90% of the people there are Arab, and yet you have the Kurdish component backed by the Americans ruling over these Arab tribes and treating them like crap. This has been simmering and boiling for years now. This is not just because they arrested one man. It's not just because they arrested Abu Khawla, the head of the military council. This is a real concern. Okay, this is a real issue. So the Arab tribes are being treated unequally. As a matter of fact, this whole area is not even really Arab necessarily. It's more like Assyrian and Armenian. But that's what makes up Syria. You have all these religious and ethnic groups. Bedouin, Palestinian, Armenian. You name it, it's there. Remember that we're talking about the cradle of civilization. Literally, the cradle of civilization. All the major. The three major religions, so Islam, Christianity, Judaism, they all have roots in Syria. Farming itself, writing, in Ugarit, you go to Ugarit, you've got, and I've been there, I've been fortunate to see it, you've got all the tablets there, the first musical notes in the world, the first alphabet in the world. Of course you're going to have all these groups there. They live in harmony, there's no problem. When the Americans start carving out a chunk, this is 1/3 of Syria. This is not small fries. Look, it's 1/3 of the country. By the way, all the oil is there. What a coincidence. The wheat is there, right? This is the breadbasket region. So all the farming, the cotton, the wheat, the oil, all of this stuff is there. And the Americans are occupying it. They're plundering the oil. And they give the Kurdish minority power over the rest of the, the rest of the inhabitants who are majority Arab. Now the thing is, the United States, as I said, they're playing a balancing game. They want to please both sides, sort of, so they can get them working together. And they lie. They say that we're here to fight ISIS. Yeah, but no one asked you to come here to fight ISIS. The Syrian government brought Hezbollah and Iran and Russia to fight Daesh, and they took care of it. Remember, Daesh, ISIS wouldn't even exist if we hadn't invaded Iraq with the Americans and created this power vacuum and then, tried to topple Assad, it wouldn't exist. Power vacuum created by the West allowed groups like Daesh to emerge and to thrive. This is, a direct consequence. So now to come there and say, oh yeah, I'm here to clean this mess up that I made, but I'm actually not going to admit that I did it, this is ridiculous. This is an excuse. What you need to understand why the United States is here. Again, look at the map. This is the most valuable part of Syria, so to speak, although again, I'm talking strictly in terms of natural resources, right? I'm not talking about historical value, because all of Syria has many precious sites. The Americans occupy the yellow zone. What the Americans want to do is connect everything that they occupy. So this whole yellow zone, they want to bring that all the way down here. You see where my cursor is? To the El Tanf border crossing. Okay? El Tanf, the Americans have an air base there. They have an illegal air base in El Tanf. So they want to join the bases that they have in Deir ez-Zor and Hasakeh with El Tanf. Now why? Why specifically El Tanf? Because the border with Iraq terminates at El Tanf. After El Tanf, you have Jordan. Now Jordan is, King Abdullah was in our army. He's a, if I'm not mistaken, a British colonel. I don't remember his rank, but he was in the British Armed Forces. And Jordan has ties with Israel. Jordan is not an issue, for Washington or for Whitehall. They're not worried that, Jordan is going to allow Syria to have a loophole or something. No. The Americans want to isolate Syria from Iraq. There's a whole axe. There's an entire axe on the map that the Americans want to chop up, divide and conquer, divide and rule. Look at what I'm talking about. You see here? We don't consider Afghanistan part of the so-called resistance axis. But nevertheless, the Americans were in Afghanistan, and there are problems because and Pakistan, they destroyed it too, and that was a menace to China and Iran and so on. But focus on the resistance axis. So there's an axe here going all the way from Iran to Iraq to Syria to Lebanon to Palestine. The Americans want to isolate these countries. Why? Because if you do that, if you isolate Syria from Iraq, no more weapons for the resistance are going to come from Iran into Iraq, into Syria, to Hezbollah in Lebanon, and to Hamas and the rest of the Palestinian resistance. Why do you think they've demonized Syria? Why is Syria, in such peril? Syria, they wanted to attack it for a long time because Syria has always said, no, we will not recognize Israel. We do not give a crap what you say. We're not going to recognize Israel. We will fight for the Palestinians, as if we're fighting for ourselves because we are one. And we are not going to allow Western banks, Western corporations to flood our country and take over our resources. No, thank you. That is why they attack Syria, because Syria says no to the Western banks and corporations, and Syria supports the resistance. The headquarters of Palestinian Islamic Jihad, PIJ, is in Damascus, is in the capital of Syria. Whether we're talking about, PIJ or Hezbollah, doesn't matter. Syria has always supported the resistance axis, resistance to Zionism, to Israeli, colonialism and American colonialism. That's why they attack Syria. So they want to make sure Iran cannot supply Hezbollah, Iran cannot support Palestine, Iran cannot support Lebanon, cannot support Syria, and vice versa. The other concern also is that Iran just joined BRICS, right? Iran joined the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So again, BRICS are the largest emerging economies in the world. Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and Iran joined the Belt and Road Initiative and signed a 25-year partnership with China. All these three things happened in the last 2 years, in the last 24 months. Iran is becoming a huge player. Iran is a big player already on the world scene, okay, on the world stage. And just 3 days ago, Iran signed a railway deal with Iraq. So you're going to have a railway now that connects the two. By doing this, by connecting Al Tanaf with Deir ez-Zor, the Americans will make sure that the resistance axis is cut in half, and that Iran has no pathway to the Mediterranean Sea for its economy. And China China as well has no path to the Mediterranean Sea through Iran and through Asia, like the old traditional Silk Road, right? You guys remember the Silk Road? This is the most infamous. It is the trade route of human civilization, right? I mean, China is trying to revive that by creating the new Silk Road. You see how Damascus is right there as one of the major ports, rather major points in the Silk Road. And of course, you have Aleppo and Palmyra that are also major trading points. So, you know, it's not just China. Like, it's not China that's going to run this. All these countries benefit. That's the whole point, right? All these countries benefit from this trade. And by doing this, you make sure China, you know, the Belt and Road Initiative cannot work because there's no land bridge. The railway between Iran and Iraq also won't be able to go any further. You know, Iran won't have any access to the Mediterranean Sea for economic purposes. And like I said, the resistance axis, you know, when it comes to Syria, Hezbollah, Palestine, all cut off. So do you understand why this is so important right now? That the Americans, in their mind, it's so important for them right now to calm the situation between the Arab tribes and the Kurds, because they need them to play ball in order for them to chop up the resistance axis, in order for them to connect Al Tanaf with Deir ez-Zor. When you come here, you see where my mouse is? When you go all the way down here to Al Tanaf, you cut Syria off from Iraq, completely isolated, no way through. What I find so funny is that, you know, you read the Associated Press, look what they say. I mean, this is, dude, look at this. They say, crucial for Tehran, Iran has had a land corridor of allies linking it to the Mediterranean Sea ever since Syrian forces and Iranian-backed militias captured areas along the border with Iraq from ISIS in 2017. Last week's clashes came after Lebanese and Arab media outlets reflecting Iran's point of view claimed that Americans intended to sever that link by capturing the strategic border town of Abu Kamal. Look, there's so much wrong with this sentence. Like, I highlighted 3 parts. Look at this. Look, first of all, what does that mean, Lebanese and Arab? What, like, as if they're 2 different groups, Lebanese and Arab. What? Yeah, Lebanese are Arab. I don't know how they make this mistake. And then right after this, they say that they're reflecting Iran's point of view. Iran's point of view? What do you mean Iran's point of view? Are you guys colorblind? Are you colorblind? What is... Look at the goddamn map. If you come down and take Al Tanaf, you block Iran from Syria. You block Iran, you know, you separate Iran from Lebanon, from Palestine. It's a simple map. It's not Iran's point of view. Look at the bloody map. They even say, they say themselves in the previous sentence that Iran has a land corridor of allies linking it to the Mediterranean Sea. So, okay, so you understand the concept. Yeah, I can't stand this. It's so depressing reading anything from mainstream media, you know? It's like anything that is logical, that is demonstrably true, you know, that you can see with your eyes, just by looking at the map. Again, even they themselves admit that this is, you know, an axe of resistance. Maybe I just coined a new term. Instead of an axis, it's an axe of resistance, right? All the way along through Iran, Hashd al-Sha'bi, PMU in Iraq, Syria, Hezbollah, and Palestine, you know, with Hamas and PIJ and so on. This is the guy that they sent, Mr. Goldrich, right? So, of course, you know, he's been in Bahrain and Abu Dhabi and the UAE, and chargé d'affaires, I think, in Belarus as well, you know, basically trying to screw around with the countries, you know. Yeah, I'm sure he'll do a good job. By doing this, what the Americans are doing is beneficial not only to the United States, but to Israel. Israel would love nothing more than to see the Palestinian resistance completely isolated from Syria and from Iran. And also to see Syria isolated from Iran. Every single day, the mainstream media bombard you with, oh, we have to support Ukraine. You have to put the Ukrainian flags everywhere. Your tax dollars should pay for weapons for Ukraine. You know, and by the way, you know, a few of those weapons, it's just a few, will end up in the hands of Nazis. You're supposed to accept that. 50 countries that are supporting Ukraine. What? Okay, so why can't Iran support the Palestinians? Fair is fair. And the Palestinian cause, mind you, is a million, gazillion, you know, times, is infinitely more valid and legitimate than whatever the hell they're doing in Ukraine. which is basically a proxy war against Russia. Okay? The Palestinian cause is a righteous cause, is a noble cause, is a true cause, is a genuine, legitimate cause, is a cause of resistance. These are true, legitimate causes. Why shouldn't Iran support them? Why shouldn't Iran support them? Who could do such a thing? Even Venezuela. Iran is sending fuel to Venezuela. What are you going to say now? Venezuela's an anti-Semitic, a Shia, puppet controlled by Iran. Get the hell out of here, man. Cut this nonsense, seriously. And they tell you every day, oh, Ukraine's territorial integrity. Really? What about Syria's territorial integrity? Who the hell is this monster, this idiot, walking into Syria? You don't have a visa. You don't have a permit. You don't have permission. They could, if they really wanted to, they could just, show the Syrian government their diplomatic cards and just go in officially. But they don't even bother because they're so ill-mannered and they have no respect whatsoever. They're no different than these viceroys and colonial 100 years ago. No different. It's just they changed outfits, right? That's it. They just changed outfits, but it's the same behavior. It's the same behavior. They walk around like they own the place. Just try going to the United States without a visa and entering illegally to give support and weapons to a group. See if they don't nail you to a cross for that. You will be treated like villainous scum and just basically maligned and treated like you're the devil. But it's okay for random American diplomats to do it. Come on, man. This is why Syria is difficult to understand. I mean, the conflict is difficult to understand because you have so many people with their goddamn hands in the pie, in the cookie jar. Turkey, for example, let's talk about Turkey. Turkey is benefiting, or rather sees an avenue, an advantageous avenue in what is happening right now. Turkey considers the PKK, which is the Kurdish Workers' Party, to be a terrorist organization. The YPG in Syria, which is, basically an affiliate, right? A Kurdish affiliate of the PKK, Turkey considers them to be a terrorist group as well. So in Turkey's eyes, again, Turkey's a NATO country. Remember that. Israel, the United States gives Israel more military aid than anyone else, is occupying Syria. The United States itself and Turkey also occupying Syria, two NATO countries. Turkey right now is looking at this situation saying, oh, wow. Oh, so you guys are fighting, huh? Might be a good time to send some troops your way. Not Turkish troops exactly, but, Turkish-backed troops. And so let me explain something. There is a group in Syria that is called the Syrian National Army. It is not the official army of Syria. It sounds like it is, right? The Syrian National Army. It's not the Syrian National Army. The real name of the Syrian army is the Syrian Arab Army, okay? The SAA. But Turkey created this group, this proxy group called the SNA, the Syrian National Army, which they fund, which they arm, which they train. And of course, it lives right alongside Al-Qaeda in Idlib, right? And so right now, Turkey sees an in and is exploiting the situation and sending its proxy forces, the SNA, eastward to fight not only the Syrian army, but also the Kurds. So, because they think that if the alliance is falling apart, it's basically politics, right? They see an in, they think that the Kurds might be weak right now, and they try to go after them. It's disgusting, honestly, because they are Turkey's funding what is basically a terrorist group, letting them run wild inside Syria, doing whatever they want. Who said they have the right to kill anyone in Syria? Kurdish, Syrian army or otherwise. What business do they have in Syria? Turkey thinks that they have the right to go inside Syria and invade it. You remember Erdogan, just not even a year ago, he was saying he wants to extend. He's not happy with one chunk of Syria. He's not happy with Idlib, right? It's not too much to his liking. He wants to extend it by 30 kilometers. Oh, please, sire, my liege. How else can we serve you? Please, off you go. He again, NATO country acts like he owns the place. And so his excuse is, oh, well, the Kurds are terrorists and we want a buffer zone to protect us, you know, protect ourselves from the terrorists. Jesus Christ. You want to protect yourselves from terrorists? Turkey, no one let more terrorists into Syria than Turkey. Truly, all these people who are going off on jihadi tourism from the UK, from I don't know where the hell else, you know, all over the world, they were going through Europe into Turkey and then crossing the border into Syria. And Turkey knows this, and they let this happen. They turned they basically turned a blind eye. They let all these supplies and weapons come in, all these random tourists come in who are really just extremists who went off to join Al-Qaeda or ISIS or whatever other faction. I mean, I really don't care if they're extremists or not, they're religious extremists or not, because they're extremists in their nature. You know, every time the United States, they kill an ISIS leader, he just so happens to be in the Turkish zone. So you see how much of Syria Turkey is occupied, right? Again, this is an old map from 2020, but these lines are relatively still the same. The situation has not changed that much. So I'm talking about, especially here in northwestern Syria. All of this giant chunk. And this is on top of what the Europeans, in their infinite wisdom, right, in their infinite grace, decided to chop up from Syria, chop up from Armenia, and give to Turkey. I mean, Armenia is like, 3 times smaller now than what it used to be. Yeah, just give it to Turkey. Antakya also from Antioch in Syria, also they gave it to Turkey, and now they're just letting Turkey sit there and occupied. And I want you to understand, this Turkish occupation has become so entrenched, they don't even use Syrian money there anymore. Okay, Syrian tender, it's not used. They use Turkish money in Syria, in northwestern Syria. That's how deep and how entrenched this occupation is. And another thing, when you read this Associated Press article, not one goddamn time, not once, do they say the word occupation. If this were an article about Russia and Ukraine, they would say a million times, oh, territorial integrity, sovereignty, occupation. How can you talk about the United States? You got a bunch of diplomats illegally entering Syria without a visa, without permission. You have 1/3 of Syria occupied, where all the oil is, by the Americans. They don't say occupation. No. I mean, this is disgusting. And then they repeat this propaganda about, oh, they're there to fight ISIS. No one invited them to fight ISIS. They don't have permission to fight ISIS. I don't care if they're going to save the goddamn planet and create, it doesn't matter how good or noble they pretend their cause is. You don't have the right to just go in another country and steal 1/3 of their territory. It's ridiculous. Especially we're talking about the United States on the other side of the globe. What possible, business could it have there? Oh, that's right, stealing oil. So you see here, you got 2 NATO countries, the United States and Turkey, so deeply involved in Syria's politics. But let's not talk about that. Oh, let's worry about Iran and Russia, right? Because they're the ones that are, that are extending and imposing their agenda on Syrians, and their influence is going to grow. And, this is how they talk about this crisis right now. They make it sound like, Iran and Russia are going to profit. So profit what? These people shouldn't be there in the first place. The United States is occupying 1/3 of Syria, and you're worried about Iran? What does Iran occupy in Syria? 1/3 of Syria is controlled by the Americans, and you're telling me, oh, you got to worry about Iran. Get the hell out of here, man. Seriously. It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.